oldest poem that I have. I wrote it when I was 15, and it's one of my first attempts at creating a scene. I call it The Last Emperor. It is light, it is flame that dances in the night shade, and all voices fall silent as I am paraded atop smooth skulls of men oft forgotten. There will be roses, flowers, and lines furling in an inexact V, jasmine fog seeping from my tomb, empty at procession's exotic end. Vials of blessed water will be flung into my corpse, laden with spun gold and opal and garnet and obsidian, casting wondrous bands of shining upon my people. And emeralds will twinkle in the holes of my skull. There will be songs unheard of, sung in tongues unknown. Eunuchs in bloody crimson and lovers in rumpled black, artists in motley dress, and warriors wet with chains. The philosophers and countrymen and bureaucrats shining with republic, their hidden hands red with betrayal. Little slaves will fan my wayward vessel aboard oriental caravans. A plain flute herald to a glorious demise, blowing upon this scene. The scented torches leading my soul and its belongings in gorgeous rows back to where the gods found me. The serfs cheering, many petals of joy wetting the soil for years' harvests to come. My tongue and my war finally put to rest. Phoenixes in perpetual flight, perpendicular to my grave. 2015. I call this next one Late Summer's Evening. And I took this photo the last summer I was here in Indiana before I moved to Arizona. And this is about that photo. A gash of violent pink sears a fading sky, brewing worlds about its glow, whom softly steam or coagulate with the pale water's ebb. A coming darkness, threatened by a violet hedging, threaded by prejudiceless puffs and smearings of cloud abouts, around, without general vicinity of the rose waters gleaming. We stared sadly at that fluttering lid, speckled with ice drops, us immobile before a heavens turning gently within a glass pool supreme. A rent and period, apparent, unforgetting, dissolving in ink, turning still. July 5th, 2020. This next one's called Crushing the Butterfly. I think it's a meditation on the process of writing itself. We who lust over lopped limb and despaired corpse, wafting between the wound, the socket, the gaping cavity, needling sinew with invisible wire, approximating whence exactly did the soul cease to roam along the softened bone. How could consciousness vacate as such? What does the last cell see once the last light has been sought by an ink splotch, steadily blossoming, bled from an off-screen pot in a panning tan? I call this next one Upon Waking, and it's just based off of a dream that I half remembered upon waking. So, it's really short. Considering the dark crystal, a vision of you and I was pressed upon my eyelids, allowing me to snatch the totality of our togetherness in a warm and remote future. Cradling that chunk of night, I wept. We were flitting through Tombstone, looking for hours. I call this next one Sacred Blood. I don't really know anything of my Native American heritage besides that there was a lot of violence. That's all I was ever taught in school. That's all I ever see whenever they're depicted. So This is my attempt to express my alienation with my heritage. I dipped a palm in a cooling paint, sheltered by billowing light, by fall's initial stumblings. We fell onto the valley from a society of shells indented into the naked rock. They sensed us first few. They could not feel those waiting behind. No wind spoke of our feet, no leaf nor twig to stir ourselves from putrid steamings, bled off indiscriminate tears between the loose soils of the wind-sickened cedar. I bathed in a sacred bloodbed. Acts unspeakable pelted from these claws, nudged by something roaming those chimera plains, its hand upon our shoulder, whispering, a thudding in the dark, a vulnerability laid atop stars. We stole our brother's map, foul parchment, stiff in a paling palm. We stomped on, each step acknowledging credence to the after-earth peeling behind us, whose sends rind, casting doubt upon every new confusion amongst limbs. We danced across the strange soils, fermenting old blood upon those stolen lands, bent sinister, together in exile. September 2020. So this next one, I just call it 9/11. Before I was born, they were perhaps a reminder of how far we have come as a collective species experience, not looming, but guarding every proud heart, every vile word. They fell on a morning where I lay in the cradle. Their dust never entered my lungs, but I still choke, I still cough. Across a trillion screens, our mothers watched, and they kept us closer that day, unless they were in that city. For the notion of such immense failure could have wrung their hearts dry. We were only children. November 2022. I call this next one Our Song, and it's just about music that reminds me of the people I've loved in the past. What strange magic, how a song of you could reach me across space-time. We used to smoke to those sounds, that voice. Love was made to those instruments. Once I believed we would be dancing to that chorus, the ones we loved watching. Perhaps that presumption cursed me, that our love could last as long as a lyric. Though those little windows of complacent passion have been fogged with my sin, I cannot help but glance towards them as our music parades whatever room I reside. The caverns of me ring with your strained voice, no 11 o'clock number at all, but still rousing me with pride. I am proud to have joined voices. I am proud of the noise we used to make. You discard that music now, I know, and I am hopeless with romance at the very presence of the tune. But behind us, a somewhere I wish I'd stayed. So this next one's really, I don't really write horror, but this is like a horror poem. I'm really scared by cold cases involving kids. One of my sisters was almost kidnapped when I was a child, and you know, it just always like scares me, like what the fuck would have happened if, like, you know, she got kidnapped. And the writer Stephen King once said something to the effect of, I have to know what this person looks like so I can recognize them if I ever meet them, talking about his writing. So I think this was a similar effort. Okay. The man does not share a face, but he's let into the rooms and the spaces wherein those who did could fail to see him. Many nights, much planning. This man waits for the sliver of a broken glance who might never arrive. Once he was told to leave and never return, and this haunts him. He coerces kindness to die within his self. And he has that sliver now. There are no women to encroach upon his strange, mirror-like looming. To escape this opportunity is antithetical to his presumed destiny. Taking it could spell many murders. He has almost dropped his face before. To let those eyes, that mouth, feel the hiss of this common world could end his suffering. No anguish, but the notion, what if, and those things playing around plastics. It is something rather forgettable, which lets the mask sink into his bone. Another night, this is panicking perhaps. A woman once burned his flesh with the brand of her most coquettish cruelties, and he found that pleasant. No voice would raise this blood to being, and no being could ever hear this blood, so why not? Why not? With the scope of it all maddeningly simple when the face was detached. This devil, hiding in the brightest of places, nurturing the shadows of generations. This devil, presuming a pleasure which no God, no Satan, no universe could suffer to birth. But yes, he is here anyhow. But where? But where? This next one's called With Brooke, and it's a memory with the woman I love. You were sitting down in the room on your phone as I cooked. The cats are lucky to smell my potatoes and eggs. I am cutting onions, forming the shape of your delight in a pan, on a burner. 17 is playing, perhaps. We are too exhausted to love loudly. It is all we can bear to sit and eat and watch cringe. But maybe I could have loved you louder. Another kiss on the forehead, another squeeze of the hand. And somewhere we are still eating and still watching, loving quietly. October 2022. This next one's called Morning Routine. And this is how I spent my mornings not too long ago, for a very long time. 4:30 a.m. and you rise from little death. And I've been awake this whole time, batting away night things and night particles, which thwart the good of your dreaming. We've been through this before. We've been through this before. Did not have to shout this morning. Did not have to plead with your corpse, thankfully. But you're tense. I feel it in your embrace, ignoring your breathing. What did I do? What did I do? As you execute the procedures, your lips leaving mine for the first in eternities, would never let you rise alone, walk down to your car alone. I am not that stupid with sleep to ignore the men in the night, looking for you, but me always near to hide you. The door, the stairs are always wet with the hypothetical bleeding. And I kiss you. I kiss you until I know I must tear away. And you must bleed off to where the bread is made for the taking. October 25th, 2022. This next one I call Brandy. I was recently in a behavioral health unit a couple months back, and this is somebody that I observed, and yeah. She is sat before the single screen, captive to the waves emanating from the glass, mumbling to men beside and behind her, speaking about medications years ago and most recent, her liquid stool that is evidence that she needs no stool softener, and the men are nodding and repeating each ounce of nonsense she leaks, and the screen is reflecting something out of her reach, and she is still mumbling, and they have never been listening. October 25th, 2022. This next one's called To Hallucinate. When I was in that behavioral health unit that I just mentioned, I described some symptoms I was having to a doctor, and he basically said I was like lying to him. So I guess this is just how that made me feel. With surety of mind, I've seen the fairies in their crackle white popping dances. I know they, not fairies, follow me, since they are at every same hour, in their same allotments, not turning, but simply being with pattern, because I am hearing. Because I am hearing, not drooling, I am saying. The sound is there, but I am letting the sounds, apparently. And there are other things to be worrying about. And they are speaking to me of her legacy, convinced they are there. And by merely continuing, she, by merely being near, draws me into her convictions. She is next to me, pulling towards an impossibility. But as it draws near, it is becoming clear. And as it is suddenly is as distinct as any summer's day, I have known it for a long time, and I am entirely there. And the voice is suddenly visible in a silence, but the shadows still dancing. November 5th, 2022. This next one's called Persephone, Indiana, and it's about Midwestern winter. The pebbles of this dead water lie unturned, barely ever in malcontent with the thrush of slur running incessant above. No pool, this bleached upon bleached shell should be crumbled now, yet stays, looming across the echo of better days, and it sighs, yawns above you as you do the same, akin to inexpressible drench. Along its furthest edges, something pretends to blossom. That potential also is dead, already a shadow of its own bruise, already vanished before it could wake you. A plane of possibility casts dumb wonder, a pebble disturbed, though all love has been widowed from chest at dawn. And you must walk in this, amongst the faces that refuse to change, the sagging of the ancients, presuming mobility, the blind cheer of grabbing at things, the babble of dying things in refuse of natural sleep, the babble of dying things in refuse of the coming generations. And you must feign pleasant. You must brunt those barely perfumed wastes with likewise cheer, or risk the glancing, the tremor of the faces, all stupid but not knowing, stupid but convinced other. And the chill has already cut into the meat of the table. The longings have been set away like instruments into cases, carefully deconstructed, almost achingly set into the soft, velvet absences. Oh, to be kind, to be alive amongst so many dead. November 26, 2022. I call this next one Celio. And it is, I knew somebody a long time ago, and this is just how they made me feel. If these remaining days were void of that filthy city, I would bleed from smiling. Believe that dirt has sodden every fibrous scalp there, almost ruined me. How to keep out a homecoming. I searched the words of the volumes in the tower, almost toppled back. For a cold love's hand, I'd abrogate all foulness. They could stuff me full of themselves for a while, since it pleased them. A righteousness disavowed, friendship gone sour beneath the sun, a repetition of souls and constant thwart of their meat. They thumb more gristle into the waiting mouths beneath the tables, hoping that was never them in another life. A dog's courage, there is something worth living for. I will not tremble at the gateway of Sodom. I have roamed its alleys as I slept, known its horrors. They even know my name now. A droll nonsensical falls upon my brow. I sag in all the right places. Tongues alien assault me as I cherish the cinders of my worlds dying likewise. You don't call anymore, and I've given up asking. Your sorrow could have kept me awake for days if you shared it. You assumed I couldn't carry that unbearableness, so you feigned unlove. I grow cold with you, though you will never touch me. I beseech you to forget my pages. Thanks for letting my number go first. I almost died on 75th Street, and though you knew, said nothing. Said you worried about my homelessness, but I know you worry about me asking for shelter. I couldn't deface my love for you, but you desecrated mine. You turn pink at snow now. Your nose does not drip. I am envious. Behind you does not matter, though it still troubles me. Cannot help but remember all your murders. Cannot help but focus on your muddle. To make sense of us would offend Hecate. She told me to get rid of you, and I am listening. I wish you best, but you assume I'm worse, and somehow this comforts you. November 21st, 2022. I call this next one After the Republicans Got What They Wanted. The night is rhythmic with the slurching of the lanes. Petty wads of kerosene Kleenex burn in the eye of most windshields. Sirens, long whispered, sing. The wind sucks the dancing out of the shop windows. The moon is gibbous, just like the poets promised. Men ashamed avoid their shadows in the blood pools. Infants alert the starving to their presence. Soldiers have gone home, their bastions crumpled. The tallest building is swaying. The hands grasp at the responsive Satan. Church has closed. Pastor's wife lies in the altar, clutching the pillbox, the pews ripening. The live wires are mad snakes. The fields are too stomped to yield. The days have vanished. Cemeteries are empty. November 23rd, 2022. This next one's called Cutting Room Floor, and it's about how my last relationship made me feel. The love of you was quiet today. We only briefly sparred in that old film. I recall a better scene of your nocturne's laugh, the sounds of you surgical in me that evening. I knew that day had to end eventually. See, days were sunnier with you in them. Scenes were complete. Though winter's barren breast has resurfaced around every gray Lord's day, I am caressed with the violence of our goodbye. A petty squall, critics' misinterpretation. So many singular sensations drying out in that red room before the executive's viewing. Aligned chronologically, our canon. We worked many months to achieve this particular shot. Can't you tilt your head a little? Why does this light somehow shadow you? Could we fix that? And your performance, God, made your little career with those tears. November 27th, 2021. This next one's called A Flower for You, and I wrote it for a pretty girl. Here. A flower for you. Bold, roiling, these beds embrace the stoicisms, the storms. I could have better buds, nurtured, plucked from a maiden's basket when seasoned. I could have tasted the ambrosia of those hills, you alongside, holding me because you wanted to. They hold red blossomings, the ones beyond the mountain, those living things in tow, at arm's side. Could this bastard blood spill upon every taken soil for you? And would you listen? I know not of most flowers. I've only felt the seedlings, known them after they've suckled from the moonstreams, almost silver by the falling of the blues. A petal, twirling, dancing down a breeze's steps, coming down to greet my lady in delight. A petal, war-torn, bleeding at its edge, sitting in the palm of you, breathless. Let me cling to your side like the toils of the South Hill. Let me enjoy your water as the eastern poppies. Let us hold the other in this littlest of Elysiums. This next one's called Lucas. It's dedicated to my mentor about her son. This gentlest of peoples paces around all spaces in constant midst of inquisitiveness. A question, always offered to satisfy a nagging in him. I answer, always patient, finding that elusiveness for him alone. He appreciates this. There are others in this world who seek to use him to justify things within themselves, the way they want to see themselves, the way they think things are, the way they could ignore beauty. I am not one of those people. He is more human than me, recipient of admiration. I am half the human he is, and we all are. I vanquish any souls who tell him different. No room in this world for those who can't make room for him. I call this next piece, it's called That Asphodel, and it's about my addiction. Come to terms with those things as they loom always. First go the masks, like fog, melt away increasingly as you are increasingly alone. A whining, been inside your ear for a while. It isn't the cars. In dream, I search for you. Awake, night passes. Easier increasingly to simply drive away. The same things populate my conversations, and that repetition might as well be an oldness. Will not bear time tugging at my sleeve. Waiting is all you ever do. We found our truth long ago, and living is our denial. I only ever really grow warmer. Outside is only temporary. Wish I didn't feel the eyes, and again, the growing as the pot crumbles and our root scraggles the stones like teeth. Necessarily doesn't mean anything. Those who sleep while titans fall, old worlds tumble out of eggs. That is our basic cowardice. The hieroglyphics did not save us. Worlds are phantoms being born. The heroes survive the tyranny, but tyranny is older. The one who waits for me is upon the poppies, the red anemones. Suddenly you exist, and you want to dance on that water. The rising from chaos alone would not clap sea from sky. You palm wind into snake, and the snake only covets creation. The smear says nothing, but time chatters on. You grow anxious for goodbyes. Hope is remembering the reflection of light. Stairwells, but only the landings. Inevitable itch compels skin to lose sweat at edge of wild wood. Sprawling, my fear congratulates you, and you sleep, and you sleep. This next one's called Pageant. It's about a vision I had in the house I currently live in, and yeah, it's called Pageant. The field shone with a pregnant moon as they woke you from deepest sleep. They let you out of the door with the promise of swords, the promise of the torch upon the rooms where those you loved lay dreaming. The leaves cracked beneath their boots. The damp soils seeped between your toes like water afraid to be. They let you down a row of floating flames, and you heard the hush of prayer, the hands holding the flames, cursing you. They forced you gently atop the straw. You let them bind your ankles and wrists because you knew you had to slip into another dream. The Lord watched, apparently, as men, women with harsh, drooping faces and assumptions upon their children's fears, kindled the fire out of you, unto the tinder, piled precariously beneath. But you felt nothing. This pain, generational in nature, could only ever move on into the children, allowed to watch the murder of you. As those you loved rose with sighs, stirred by the chanting and the cries of the horde intent on glaring into something ineffable beside yourself. A relief spread through you, an excitement you never disclosed. Fading, you shared this mirth with the children of God. though you felt that God would never understand you. You knew that this crush would understand the chorus of your passing, like the leaves they ignored as they led you, like the songs that the fire sang. Remembering, your voice rang out, suddenly slicing that strange fruit of theirs, and they're hating you despite your kindness. Their mouths twisted as you grinned horribly with your truth and your dying. The children would never understand. I call this next one Southern Cross. It's based off a tarot reading my mentor gave me. So yeah. She fans the cards on the table as the octopus floats, dreaming in some black depth. The Fool. The darkness, if there was light to bounce, would bleed some chameleon's color as the eldritch thing began to change. Judgment upright. The eldritch stirs, feeling forth that unknowable wet with tendrils, splaying against nothing. The hanged man upright. The sailor's fear, whether of another floating or of an old age where they cannot help it, lets more shadow flow, lets obsidian weep. Empress reversed. This new void, rendering surroundings as some bad glass, recalls to the eldritch of a smaller siphoning, of its lost child, dead and pale, dissolving. 3 of Wands reversed. Another lurking, the eldritch cannot ignore. What could dare encroach upon the expanse, this emptiness, beside some kindred sliming? But the eldritch cannot cope. She feels the pocks and tearings of the hooks of men, and remembers the claw and tooth of things larger. 2 of Pentacles, upright. But could they be brother? Could another ancient have cause to touch, to see her? She will unfurl. She will make room for another nightmare to bleed. 9 of Pentacles upright. 10 of Pentacles upright. The devil. She flies on into that improbable night, not waiting, but cutting into a thickness too terrible, too heavy for us. She has left this patch of dying stars, seeking another light. November 8, 2022. I call this last one Chromatic. I think of it as a Hades to Persephone moment, longing for your lover type. Trouble with flowers is they don't sing. I was flower once, betwixt the odd heaps, queer wine of contorted anguishings, snuffing myself with cloud too gray and confined. Spring was recent, but we were apart, and we mourned you in my chambers, as if chimera plains heard dancing flute of wild grass god. Reeds whip your legs, wild, as you roam above me, and I am beneath one of your dying dogmas, lying in dimness. Like water, a flower could splash from the palm of you. The forest itself and alone, beginning to him, in accordance with your warmth, encompassing the bedlam and thrush of stars. And those sounds trouble your sleep, the petals suddenly silent, as a sand, tumbling towards a glass's bottom, but particle of 1,000 glitterings. Ancient, ambiguous, unlike the bite of the later fury, dunes could cool into a tolerance, invitation, and petals die as the waters scintillate with the shining of the greater star. Woods were, and the hem of the sky spins hot with soft storms. The hem of the sky spins gently atop the coal lands, unfettering memory of flood, murmurs of light. Like the soil, you were fed and given comfort, and the wedding of those lands run on as you let yourself remember me. Fulminations of heaven raise the random places, as unmeant as the dying of your yellow wheat. Like daylily, you are eternal. All flowers, all leaves were only ever the footsteps of you, and you stood still, listening for me, in shadows, in flame. Hearing nothing, you cared not to bloom next harvest, cultivating a coldness, that song brushing incivility into all branches, all breezes. Nearing, I send for you in dream, in birds, in waves, in the hands you've kept from yourself for so long. Those who wait for you light the fires to combat the coming of the chill, hoping noontime rays would stretch unreasonably. Like fruit, like seed, you gush in the earth, and they are stealing the proof of your growing, drinking of you, forgetting. As suddenly as death, a waste of washing aways seeps sun from days, the moons of planets flirting edge of horizons, that blanketing only ever deepening into a twilight. You come to me, and fleet and flake bruise all hands, all faces. They leave their bread at your feet. Like music, we dance between a sweet sadness, all fields hardening, all fires growing weaker, and you forget spring. Thank you.